Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Inspirational Anna Show. As usual, we bring you nothing but inspiration, education, and an opportunity to learn about one another and to figure out how we can also be positive contributing members to society. My name is Anna, the host of this show, and today I am most excited to be talking a bit about our Black history, how we ended up in Canada, and so much more. But it'll be a two-part thing, one today and one next week with another guest. So without any further ado, I just want to bring you a poem written by James Weldon in 1989 as a poem which has now been turned into the Black Anthem. Going through and doing my research, I was just inspired by the words of this national anthem, the Black National Anthem. Of course, being born and raised in Ghana, West Africa, Black history is an everyday thing. Time isn't set aside for us to celebrate Black history because for us, waking up, going to bed, going to school, going to work, history is right in front of us. Those we want to see or we see are the people we want to be. Those people who are going up and down, back and forth in the school, at work, in church, in science, in publishing, in politics, in all of that. All of those people every day for us are writing our history. But then in arriving in North America, the other thing I always want to bring to people's attention is that slavery for me or for us growing up in West Africa didn't go too much into depth about slavery and everything that came with it or its effects on Black people. It was such a welcoming experience to learn about all that when I arrived in Canada. I used to think, why set aside time to do Black History Month? Why? Then I realized as I lived here more and more, the importance and the seriousness of why time has to be put aside for that to happen. It is almost like celebrating one's birthday when you remember all the good about the person, when you remember all the tragedies about the person. But at the end of the day, for me, it's a celebration that needs to be applauded by everybody who has taken the step to make it real. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, here is the Black Anthem. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise. High as the listening skies, let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died. Yet with a steady beat, have not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers sighed. We have come over a way that with tears have been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered, out from the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the wide gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent years, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light. Keep us forever in the path, we pray, lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we meet thee. Lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Black Anthem. The words fill me with such hope and such joy that this gentleman, James Weldon, saw it fit to put such words on paper so that one day we will remember, sing, and celebrate with it. So at this point, we're going to come to Black History Month, its origin, and how we as Canadians ended up in Canada. As usual, and as a reminder, remember that for me growing up in Ghana, West Africa, Black History Month wasn't a thing. So if you're wondering why my interest is in it, it's because I'm now full-blown Canadian. And this is a story that is mine as well as others, because it shows that people paved the way for me to come and join Canada and be accepted and given an opportunity to rise, to succeed, and to make my own difference. And that is what I'm trying to do here. So the story of Black History Month, we're told, this dates back to 1926 in the United States. At the time, an African American historian named Carter G. Woodson founded a week that focused on celebrating the accomplishments of African Americans. Remember that at the time, Blacks arrived in the United States and other parts of the world as slaves. So they were not deemed in any positive light, but to be servants and to be properties to others. So this historian saw a fit that a time has to be set aside so that we focus on celebrating the accomplishments of African Americans. He decided on a week in February. People often ask, why February? People often say, February is the coldest month. Why is Black History Month in February? But there's a reason. And that reason is Carter G. Woodson found it a necessity to put this Black History Month celebration in a week in February. And it was because there were two people whose birthdays fell in the month of February. One of those was Frederick Douglass, an anti-slavery activist, and Abraham Lincoln served as the 16th president of the United States. So Frederick Douglass was an anti-slavery activist, a person who fought and worked hard against slavery. And Abraham Lincoln, who was the 16th president of the United States, fought for the freedom of all enslaved people throughout the country. So, ladies and gentlemen, whenever we wonder why Black History Month is in February, this is the reason why. Carter G. Woodson, who thought of the idea of 1 week of Black history, Black stories being celebrated, picked two people who were important at the time to the fight for the freedom of slaves and Blacks from slavery. Frederick Douglass was an anti-slavery activist, and Abraham Lincoln served as the 16th president of the United States. And it says here, Lincoln fought for the freedom of all enslaved people throughout the country. How beautiful. This is what can happen when people work together as a team. As we all know, Abraham Lincoln was a white president. Carter Woodson was Black, Frederick Douglass, Black. But they all worked together on this and in this fight. Now, while Woodson's idea began as a 1-week celebration, it eventually became a month-long event called Black Heritage Month in the United States. And this happened in 1976. And in 1995, Canada's government officially recognized February as Black History Month. And it says here, did you know that each year there's a different theme for Black History Month? In 2022, the official theme is February and Forever, celebrating Black history today and every day. So Black history shouldn't only be celebrated or told in the month of February. Each one of us has a duty to tell our stories, to be part of our success, to help in the growth and stability of the Black community, to educate so that racism and wickedness towards Black people will not be the lifestyle of the world. Why is that important? Because our children and our children's children are growing up in a multicultural society. And if we don't tell our story, how are these young ones going to learn about our work? How are they going to learn about our story? How are they going to learn to understand that we are all one in the fight to make the world a better place? So my friends, let's all work to make Black History Month an important celebration, and Black history important in all across humanity. Then the question I'm asking here is, so my information is coming from the Government of Canada's website, and it says, Black Canadians and their communities have been a part of shaping Canada's heritage and identity since the arrival of Matthew da Costa, a navigator and interpreter whose presence in Canada dates back to the early 1600s. It says, the role of Black Canadians and their communities in Canada has largely been ignored as a key part of Canada's history. There is little mention that some of the Loyalists who came here after the American Revolution and settled in the Maritimes were people of African descent, nor the fact that many soldiers of African descent made many sacrifices in wartime as far back as the War of 1812. Few people in Canada are aware of the fact that African people were once enslaved in the territory that is now known as Canada, or of how those who fought enslavement helped to lay the foundation of Canada's diverse and inclusive society. Black History Month is a time to learn more about these Canadian stories and the many other important contributions that Black Canadians and their communities have made to the history and continued growth of Canada. In my research to come and present this program today, I was just filled with sadness. I was also filled with joy, and I was filled with the energy and the courage to continue to play my part in making this world a better place. To not be somebody who just sits back and watches, but somebody who plays a vital role in where the Black community here in Canada goes, where our whole multicultural society here in Canada, where it goes. So as you can see, we don't only bring Black people onto the show, we look all over and we bring different people from different places to tell our Canadian diverse and multicultural story. One moment, please. I'll be right with you. I'm back. Thank you. So it says the commemoration of Black History Month in North America dates back to 1926, when Harvard-educated African-American historian Carter G. Woodson proposed setting aside a time devoted to honor the accomplishments of African Americans. So now, coming back to Canada, it is said that in February 2008, Senator Donald Oliver, the first Black man appointed to the Senate, introduced the motion to recognize contributions of Black Canadians in February as Black History Month. So in our Canada, it was Senator Donald Oliver, the first Black man appointed to the Senate, who introduced the motion to recognize contributions of Black Canadians in February as Black History Month here in Canada. As we've already heard, it started in the United States, but now here we are in Canada because we also have a presence in this country. It received unanimous approval and was adopted on March 4th, 2008. The adoption of this motion completed Canada's parliamentary position on Black History Month. Again, here's another Black person who saw the need where they were to make it a point that our stories don't get untold, that our stories are recognized so that others may learn from it. In all of it, as I'm doing my research, what I'm seeing are individuals who saw the need to do something important for their people and then for humanity, because at the end of the day, when they do something right and it affects everybody, it doesn't only affect one community, it affects humanity. And then it says here, Black Loyalists arrived in Nova Scotia in 1783 and 1785. They were the largest group of African birth and African descent to settle in Nova Scotia. They came from the US, Britain, and the Caribbean. So as we can see, Blacks came from all over the world to settle in Canada. But it says here, they were the largest group of African birth. So even though they came from different places all over the world, they are African born, a group of African birth and African descent to settle in Nova Scotia. They came from the US, Britain, and the Caribbean. Now, the beauty of this is that as Blacks were fighting for their freedom, as Blacks were being sent all over the world Blacks always longed to be home. They longed to be with each other. They longed to be with their own, to be loved and cared for by their own. Because at this time, during slavery and due to slavery, Blacks were not afforded the respect that they needed as human beings. They were not treated well. They were not treated right. So Blacks were always hungry to seek better grounds, to seek better places where they could live and thrive as the respectable human beings that they are. So in Canada here, there used to be Africanville, talking about Blacks looking for a place where they would belong, where they would be loved and cared for. Africanville was an African Canadian village located just north of Halifax and founded around the mid-19th century. Its inhabitants were a mix of formerly enslaved people, Maroons, and Black refugees from the War of 1812. Many of these refugees were themselves once enslaved in the Chesapeake area of the United States. So as we said before, these Black people came from all over. They came from Britain, the Caribbean, the US, and here in Canada, they created a place, a village that they called Africanville. We're told it is located just north of Halifax, and I will make time one day to go and see this place. It says, Africanville was a culturally significant place. That means they had their own school, they had their own church, they had their own businesses. So it was vibrant, and it even felt like they were back home in their Africa. That is why they called it Africanville. In fact, they even had a hockey league. They even had a hockey team called Colored Hockey League of the Maritimes, a business largely run out of Africanville. So they became a thriving community with sports, with religion, with education and all that, as they sought to create a world for themselves. And they drew big crowds from the CHL, founding in 1895 until it closed in 1930. So even from slavery, our people found a way to live life well, to create positive spaces in which they could thrive and look forward to a better tomorrow. Today, Blacks are all over Canada. Immigrant families from all over the place, Jamaica, Nigeria, Ghana, the Grenadines, St. Kitts, St. Lucia, Trinidad, all kinds of Black people have come together. But at the end of the day, the story is the same. Our ancestry is slavery. And in Canada, there was a place called Africanville, where our people, in spite of their struggle, settled to have and plan a better future. Life wasn't so easy for them in Africanville. It says, despite difficult living conditions and Africanville's growing reputation as a slum in the 20th century, residents generally maintained a deep pride in their community. It was seen as a rural ideal apart from Halifax. Many that visited cited the people and the seaside location, with one well-traveled resident calling it one of the most beautiful spots I've been in. This week has been fantastic, as I wanted to go back into our story as Black Canadians, where we started from. And so I give honor To all who have worked very hard to establish Black History Month here in Canada, I give honor to all of those whose hard work today is helping our story to be told. I give honor and praise to all of us who live now, who have work to do to take the work further. Before I go, today's show is only a half hour. Before I go, I want to talk a little bit about somebody who inspired my life as I was growing up. Funny thing is, I didn't learn much about racism when I was growing up in Ghana, but South Africa brought us racism. And there was one person who sacrificed his life so that South Africans can one day be free. And that is Madiba Nelson Mandela. It says here, Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela was a South African anti-apartheid revolutionary, political leader, and philanthropist who served as the first president of South Africa from 1994 to 1999. He was the country's first Black head of state and the first elected in a fully representative democratic election. Why is Nelson Mandela's story important to us today? He was imprisoned his whole life, almost his whole life, because he wanted his people to be free, to come away from under the stress of apartheid, to stop Blacks from being treated as animals. He sacrificed dearly, almost his whole life spent in prison, 20 years and more. But at the end of the day, Nelson Mandela came out of prison and became the first Black president of South Africa. What pride and joy that we must all adhere to, sacrifice for others. Nelson Mandela became the president, and yet Nelson Mandela said he wasn't angry at those who imprisoned him. Rather, he was happy to be here to see that his people can be free of racism and of apartheid. Ladies and gentlemen, I pray that as we all learn about our histories, we see ourselves as people who can contribute positively to our own community, to our own story, to our own contribution to humanity. And if you learned nothing at all, understand that we have mentioned 5 people here who stood at a time when nobody wanted to and made a difference. And today we celebrate Black history. Carter G. Woodson, the one who founded a week to celebrate our stories. Frederick Douglass, an anti-slavery activist. Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. Nelson Mandela, our South African prisoner and leader. And Senator Donald Oliver, the first Black man who was appointed to the Senate of Canada, who put in the motion to recognize contributions of Black Canadians in February as Black History Month. I hope you've learned something from this, and we're coming next week to bring you more stories of others who have contributed to Black History Month and Black history all over the world. Thank you. Enjoy your day and be encouraged, be inspired. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.